Okay, so I think we can start. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks already from the beginning to the presenters. This is workshop based on sector coupling. The main goal of this workshop is to create a synergy between projects, because right now I think that given the historical times and the energy crisis we are facing, there is not only a unique response to answer to these complex problems. And so one of the possible solutions is to start thinking about our energy system as a whole. So thermal, electric, gas grids should not be considered as separate entities, but they should have some sharing points and some overall advanced management, which of course poses several problems in terms of complexity, regulatory issues, and so on. So today we have 5 projects. The HYPERGRYD projects that will be presented by Francesco here in presence, then the WEDISTRICT project, Superpower to Gas, HEATflex, and Mission projects from our speakers connected remotely. I ask all the speakers and all the people here to not to be shy and ask questions either during the presentations or just afterwards in order to make this as lively as possible. So I think, Francesco, you can start, and then all the others afterwards can directly speak, and I will be here to change the slides, okay?
Thank you, Valerio. So hello, everyone, and I hope you are not too tired at this hour of the day, but I will try not to be too much boring. So I'm Francesco Milani. I'm the Innovation Project Manager in ARC Barcelona, and I'm the coordinator of HYPERGRYD project, which is a research innovation action project which started in October 2021, so more or less 1 year ago. ARC is the coordinator together, and we are carrying out the project together with other 19 partners from the 7 countries you see on this map. We are developing solutions for sector coupling, so thermoelectric coupling from TRL 4 to 6. And if you are looking at this presentation, probably you are interested in what we are doing. So please check the website, hypergrid.eu, and subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on the social media like LinkedIn and Twitter. What we want to do in HYPERGRYD is basically to empower the creation of what we call smart hybrid energy networks, which is basically the result of the coupling of electric and thermal networks based on the models of the 4th and 5th generation district heating and cooling. So how do we do that? We mainly shape our activities into 3 different layers. So we are going to develop technologies, hardwares, and a platform. So the technologies are mainly technologies for electricity and heat generation and for thermal storages. I will explain later in a more detailed way. Then to soundly coordinate all the hardware that we have in the projects, we are developing a bunch of different tools and services to mainly to optimize the system design and also optimize the management and the operation of the districts. Also to ensure services such as flexibility and secure energy supply. This was the second layer of our activities. The third layer is basically a platform, since we want to make sure that all our tools and services can be accessible through a single, for example, web page that we call platform. Through our tools and also through our activities of communication and exploitation, we want to engage as much as possible the end user for the overall grid energy management. And this is a very generic overview of what we are facing in our project. So we are facing both real or controlled, let's say, districts, in which we are not only dealing with our developed hardware, but we are also dealing with existing technologies, such as, for example, PV panels or small-scale hydropower plant, wind power plant for electricity generation, but also solar collectors and biomass boiler for thermal generation, as well as other systems for storage. So looking into the more specifically into the hardware solution that we are developing, we are developing three hardware solutions. Sorry. The first one is a modular heat pump with short-term phase change material storage. The modular heat pump is the natural bridge between the two worlds we are dealing with, so between the electric and thermal worlds. Is an asset that can, for example, can boost the heating and the cooling of a network, thus allowing us to lower the temperature of the central district heating and cooling network, and is a very flexible asset. We can operate the heat pump when we need it. So, for example, when we have low electricity prices from the grid, or we have a surplus of renewable generation from our panels, for example. The heat pump also is supported with a PCM storage, which is a short-term storage that, again, can be used for flexibility, since, for example, we can store waste heat or unused heat from the network and use it for production of domestic hot water, for example. The absorption storage is, on the other side, a long-term storage solution. So it's a monthly to seasonal storage application. It can provide heating and cooling both at low and high temperatures. Therefore, can be used both with old generation and new generation networks of district heating, and again can provide great flexibility to the network. The final solution is a micro combined heating and power solution with steam engine and steam buffer. This solution can provide at the same time heating electricity, and also can be used in the reverse mode. So can use, for example, electricity to store energy in form of, for example, steam through the steam buffer. Since we are dealing with a very complex system, and also we are dealing with the solutions that have a distributed nature, we need somehow to soundly control everything in the district. And for this reason, we are developing some tools that are not only used for the operation side, but also for the design phase and decision-making phase. So, for example, we are developing both commercial and research-oriented tools. One of them is, for example, a dynamic simulation, a tool for dynamic simulation modeling of the two carriers that we are dealing with, so electricity and heat. Modeling that two carriers at the same time in a simulation allows us to understand interdependencies and synergies among the two systems, and, for example, giving suggestion on what is best to implement, for example, to reach a fourth or fifth generation network, or, for example, to go for islanded mode, or to increase the renewable share inside the district. In one pilot, we are making virtual representation of the district, so a digital twin based on BIMG's model that we are using, for example, to assess the exergonomic optimization of a district. So how can improve the district from an exergy point of view? We are creating local energy markets, or, well, better, we are assessing the potential of flexible assets, for example, heat pumps, when we deal with the exchange of energy among peers. And finally, we are more on the management and operation phase. We are developing some machine learning models for load prediction and demand response. We are also installing a edge solution in one of our pilot that can allow us to directly control the equipment and thus optimize the equipment, the operation of the equipment. So we are testing our solutions in 4 different pilots. Some of them are real pilots with real users, like for example, MV Park in Turin and Sonnenplatz have very real users, since one is a office district and the other one is a small town. Then we have a pilot in Poland, which is a sort of hybrid pilot, since we have real users, but we also have the possibility to test technologies in a kind of safe environment, so in a Keso Research Center. And then we have the pilot in Bolzano, URAC, which is a lab. And in this pilot, we are testing we are installing and testing our small-scale CHP solution. So very briefly, for example, in the MV Park pilot, we are simulating the district with our dynamic simulation tool. So simulating the 2 carriers, heat and electricity at the same time. In Sonnenplatz, we are making the virtual representation of the district, so the digital twin of the district. And through this digital twin, we are offering services such as the exergonomic optimization of the district. And we are creating the energy market. And also, again, we are trying to simulate the electricity and thermal network at the same time to optimize the design phase of the network. In Keso, we are installing 2 technologies, so the heat pump with the PCM storage and the absorption storage. And we are developing our machine learning algorithm for demand response and for the optimization of the overall system. Where are we now? We are almost done with the first year of the project, since it started in October 2021. So in this first year, we mainly worked on the definition of the framework of the projects. So we defined the use cases, we defined the indicators. On the technology side, we started modeling the solutions for the hardware, and we started collecting data for the tools and the services. We started defining the architecture of the general of the platform, and we started defining our demonstration strategy. What we will do next is mainly going on with the development of the solution. So after modeling, we will simulate the solution, we will manufacture them, and we will test them firstly in a lab scale environment, and then we will ship them to the pilot and test them and validate them. We will implement also the tools, and we will validate everything, and also we will develop our business models and assess the replicability of our solution in a higher TRL project, or also for the market. It's quite a new project, so we don't have so far, luckily, a lot of challenges, but we have already identified some of them. First of all, the data accessibility, so the opportunity to access to high quality data, and especially when we are dealing with real users, we are already having some issues with the data protection policies. Then we are having problem defining the overall architecture for the common platform, and also the database that will store all the data we need for the platform. We are noticing that there's lack of standards in the field of sector capping. So in some of the national regulation, the procedure for connecting and coupling the systems, the equipments in DC heating, cooling, and low voltage networks is not explicitly mentioned. So this is already quite important finding of our project. And more practically, we are dealing with delay into delivery time of our edge solution. That is kind of a bottleneck so far for the developing of some hardware solution. I'm open to some questions either now or later, and thank you for your attention.
Maybe you can have all the questions later. Then for the WEDISTRICT project, I don't know who is starting to speak, if Constantine or Javier.
Hello, everybody. Just a second, because I have a problem. I cannot see your screen, your slides. So, as I understand, all the other people online, they see the slides, but I don't know why today all the problems are on my side. I will try to reconnect. Okay, to see if it works. Okay, so I leave now and I will reconnect.
Maybe then
otherwise you just tell us next time.
Maybe we move on with the superpower to gas project. It was the next, and then we go back to the WEDISTRICT project, since it's already quite late in the afternoon. So Hans, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Hans Rasmussen. I work as Secretary General for the European Research Institute for Gas and Energy Innovation. And it's a great honor to be here to present some intermediate result from a broader international project called Superpower to Gas. It stands for Synergies utilizing renewable power regional by means of power to gas. It's funded within the ERANET system, and yeah, we have here the project structure. So Superpower to Gas aims to interconnect leading power to gas initiative, and it's built around 5 national projects or national cases that team up together and all have different challenges, and then team up together to form and learn together for developing evaluation tools for power to gas in a regional context. This all is underlined then by energy market and stakeholders work package. And the project duration is 36 months, and we have Denmark involved by DTU, Danish Technical University, and Green Lab Skive. Austria by Johannes Kepler University in Linz. Germany by German Fuels Institute, DBI, and England Bund Institute, EBI. And from Italy, we have CNR and University of Bologna. In the Netherlands, we have University of Groningen. So if we look at the national cases, they are run as independent, more or less as independent projects working together in joint work packages. We have the Netherlands case looking at the social economic conditions for power to gas and the cost and benefits analysis in the Netherlands case. In the Danish case, we have local multi-energy carrier business park. So the implementation of power to gas in the business park environment, optimizing those value streams. In the German case, we have the development of 2 tools for hydrogen price analysis and for power-to-gas value chain analysis. And in the Austrian case, we're looking into the future demand of the industrial sector and using their tools, Move, Collect, and Prestige. And in the Italian case, we are developing a new tool based on publicly available data and also conducting laboratory tests for electrolysis going into this analysis. In the overarching energy markets and stakeholder analysis, we are looking into national energy system modeling. We also take a look at the certificate markets, and then we will conclude with summarizing opportunities and caveats for power to gas in the European energy system. So then let's move on and look at some of the intermediate results. So from Johannes Kepler University in Linz, they have made an estimation, projection of future demand globally for hydrogen within industry and steel production, ranging around 4,000 terawatt hours per year for chemical industry, and for steel production, you have a range from 2,000 to 2,500 terawatt hours per year. In addition to this, you also would need power-to-gas installments for energy storage, seasonal storage. And we have the curves indicating the buildup of these gigawatts of electrolyzers that we need over time. And then also you can see how the annual growth rate is complying to that as well. And in total, you have the table. So we have 3 scenarios: low, moderate, and high scenario. There's quite a huge range. It's hard to estimate the future demand. But these values for electrolysis capacity and for methanation capacities are then the fundamental source input for the projection of how the cost reductions for power to gas could develop into the future. So if we look at the next slide, we have how the cost reduction could develop for alkali electrolysis, PEM electrolysis, and high temperature electrolysis until 2050s. These are the results of their analysis in the Collect tool. And we see that we have minor short-term cost reduction expected in alkaline electrolysis, although on the long term, we also have reductions there. The major developments or cost reductions we have in PEM electrolysis that will undercut the alkaline electrolysis already on the short and medium term. The high temperature electrolysis will be competitive only in the long-term projection. If we look at the lower part, they have also made the same projection when it comes to the different technologies for methanation. And here we see generally that the methanation technologies are quite close together, although that we also see that biological methanation comes from being more expensive and in the end has the potential to become cheaper than catalytic methanation. If we go to the next slide, we see also the intermediate results matching this from Engle-Bunte Institute. They have looked into emerging technology for methanation, so-called free-phase methanation, which offer better technical performance with higher dynamic operations and better thermal conductivity, which leads to avoidance of hotspots and catalyst deactivation, so a higher security of operation. They have evaluated this technology within their tool, Kit Energy Lab 2.0 and EcoMeth tool, and comes to the conclusion that you could have capex for 5 megawatts installation at 330 euros per gigawatt. And if we go up in scale, we could also reach 160 euro per kilowatt. So we see here that we have a matching technology emerging, and then we have a similar range of potential cost reduction when we go up in scale. So on the next slide, we have the results from intermediate results from the Italian tool development, and they have started with optimization in the MATLAB environment for a first approach, and after that applied Python, transferred it to the Python environment in order to have the availability for public licensing. And in the analysis, they have identified in the region of Puglia in Italy clusters of power generation and corresponding power to gas plant capacities and user consumption hotspots, and this is then mapped out in their tool, and you see the results in the right box where you have the corresponding colors in the consumption and power to gas spots. So they did also apply this tool in a workflow together with other tools available in the Superpower to Gas consortia, and made estimates from using the SpinOp tool and Balmoral for higher level investigations at provincial level. They then used the Superpower to Gas Italy tool to identify and optimize the site location at a local level, and they used the DBI map tool for a specific case study in the city of Taranto. If we move on to the certificate part of the Superpower to Gas project, we have intermediate results from the Danish Technology University. You see here a slide where we are comparing and how to get from blue hydrogen to, yes?
I kindly ask you to finish in 2 to 3 minutes, okay?
That's okay. That's okay. It's only 2 slides more. Yeah, so this is a result where we first have applied taxes. That's the left side, to then see a shift from gray hydrogen to blue hydrogen. And if you then apply also a certificate bonus, so to speak, for green hydrogen at a level of 2 euros per megawatt hours, you can see that you also would reach the shift from blue hydrogen to green hydrogen, to renewable hydrogen. So if you go to the next slide, we have identified some challenges during the projects for the implementation of power to gas. We see that the supply side barriers are still high levelized cost of energy and investments. We see on the demand side the barriers it's the lack of renewable fuel consumers and missing promoting schemes. We have the regulatory barriers for renewable fuel certification missing, and we have infrastructural barriers. So we need to build up transport of hydrogen capacities. On the modeling part, the challenge has been to have availability of data from industry and difficulties to estimate local hydrogen demand for automotive and industrial sectors. When it comes to availability of tools, the consortia have the feeling there's very much choices and a poor distinction between the different tools accessible. Yeah, so just the outlook then for the coming time. We are looking at a project that is approaching the finishing line. We have provided here a list of further results that will come and be published from now until the end in March. And at the end of March, we will also arrange a closing conference and would like to direct already now the invitation to join us there. And if you're interested to have more detailed results of the publications within the projects, you can access them via the project homepage, and you have the QR code available here in the set of slides. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hans. Now we go back to the WEDISTRICT project. Konstantin,
yes,
you
I will
manage?
start the presentation and my colleague will continue after that.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Konstantin Ionescu, and I'm the project manager of the partner University Polytechnic of Bucharest within WEDISTRICT project. In the next minutes, I will give you a short presentation of the WEDISTRICT project as a whole, followed by the presentation of the role of our university in the project and the current status of the demonstrator we are developing. After that, my colleague Javier Ruiz from Atos will present you the digitalization platform they are developing within the project frame. First, few words about the project. WEDISTRICT is a Horizon project, Horizon 2020 project, in which 21 partners from 9 countries set as main objective to demonstrate innovative 100% fossil-free heating and cooling solution for new and existing district heating and cooling system. For this purpose, 10 technologies are developed within the project to be implemented in 3 real-scale projects demonstrator. Initially, as you can see on the slide, the implementation of the technologies was considered to be done in 4 demonstrators, but for our unforeseen reasons, one of the demonstrators could not be realized. Next one, please. As I mentioned before, within the project will be developed 3 real-scale demonstrators. Their location are in Spain, Romania, and Sweden. UPB, so our university is responsible for development of the geothermal PV hybridization technology and its implementation into the Bucharest demo site. Next, please. Before presenting the demo, please let me say a few words about the location of the Bucharest demo site. Here you have a map of the campus of the university where our demo installation is implemented. To demonstrate the functionality of the proposed demo, we have chosen a target building and also the local heating network for the entire campus of the university. The target building is an academic and research laboratory within our faculty. I can say that the heating demand of the entire campus is assured by a cogeneration plant based on natural gas, so no renewable energy sources involved before WEDISTRICT. Next, please. Very short, the main objective of the Bucharest demo is to generate 3 forms of energy: electricity, heat, and cold. That is based on a mix of renewable energies, geothermal and solar. And also the electricity produced to cover at least the consumption of the thermal energy production unit, but considered in a yearly basis. The heat produced by the system will cover the demand of the building, and the overproduction will be injected in the local district heating network through a new pipeline. Next, please. So the geothermal PV hybridization technology developed by UPB, and that is already implemented in the Bucharest demonstrator, is based by joining two different technologies for production of electricity and thermal energy based on renewable energy sources, solar and ground energy. In short, the electricity generated by the photovoltaic system will be used to power a ground source heat pump system that will generate on eastern thermal energy. The thermal energy produced will be used to cover the heating and also the cooling demand of a consumer, as I told you before, the target building. And the overproduction, heat overproduced, in fact, will be introduced in the local district heating network. In order to ease the process of replication and scaling, the development of the demo was made considering a modular concept, as can be seen in the next slide. Thank you. The Bucharest demonstrator is composed of two subsystems, the thermal and the electrical. Briefly, the thermal subsystem is the section of the demonstrator used to generate heat and cold also. And the electrical one is the section that will generate electricity to cover the consumption of the thermal part. The thermal subsystem is based on two heat pumps working in a master-slave configuration. Can you go back in the slide before, please? Because here I will explain the functionality of the system. So as I said, the system, the thermal subsystem is based on two heat pumps. The heat pumps are ground to water type, and they are using the energy extracted from the ground by means of borehole heat exchanger. During the heating period, the heat produced by heat pumps is stored in a large tank. And from here, we are using the energy by different consumers. During the summer, so in the cooling season, the cooling needs of the building are covered mainly by a passive cooling system, in which only the ground heat exchanger is involved, so no heat pumps. But when the cooling demand increases, the heat pumps will start and produce cold water in an active cooling way. The domestic hot water is produced during the summer by a hybrid PVT panels system. The electrical system on the right side, as you can see, consists of two low voltage subsystems based on PV panels, acting as microgrids that will be installed on two different buildings. The PV systems were optimized and designed to offer a research and technology variety and also flexibility in functioning. In this sense, three different types of equipment were considered for each category, for PV, for panels, for inverters, and also for batteries. The proposed architecture is built around the island concept. So in this way, the system installed in each building can function as an isolated island based on its own storage system in case of blackout. They are also interconnected through a microgrid and furthermore connected with the local power grid. Next slide, please. So here, the hybrid system is designed to cover mainly the needs of the target building in terms of heat, cold, and domestic hot water. And here you have the numbers for the building. As I already mentioned, the heat produced by the system, but not consumed by the building, will be injected in the local heating network of the university. To achieve all we have proposed after the system design, we have obtained the values presented on this slide. The ground-to-water heat pump tandem is summing around 63 kilowatts for heating and around 50 kilowatts for cooling. The cold source of the heat pumps is provided by a ground heat exchanger, composed of 12 geothermal probes W type, 100 meter depth each. On the electrical side, the photovoltaic system is of 66 kilowatts installed power, and we have also a storage system in batteries summing 43 kilowatt hour. Next, please. I present you here an aerial view of the deployment area of the equipment to have an overview of the site. As I mentioned before, we have the 2 PV arrays installed on the rooftop of 2 buildings. In the basement of a target building is the deployment space for the thermal subsystem of the demonstrator, and close to the target building, framed in yellow, you can see the area designated to the ground heat exchanger. Next, please. First section of the installation phase of our demonstrator was the installation of the ground heat exchanger, and was done last year in June and July. Here you have a few pictures from the installation phase showing the main step of the installation. First is a 3D drawing present the layout of the 12 geothermal probes, and next different pictures from the installation. Next, please. These pictures are from the technical room of the target building. Here you can see the connection of the borehole heat exchanger from outside the building with the heat pump system in the basement of the building. The picture on the right presents a general overview of the heat generation unit with the main components. Next, please. Here we have some details on the heat generation units. On the left picture, you can see the distributor collector of the hot water produced by the heat pumps. Through this equipment, the hot water is distributed to consumers, including the local heating network. The connection of the demonstrator with the local district heating network is made through a new pipeline that starts from the technical room. You can see it on the top of the left picture. And that line arrives in the thermal substation, as can be seen in the picture on the right. Next, please. Regarding the electrical subsystem, here we have the 2 PV array installed on the rooftop of the 2 buildings. They are installed, their installation is already finished, and they are already injecting power into the local grid. Starting from June, we are doing measurement on the electrical energy produced by the PV system, and for the summer months, we have a production of around 9 megawatt-hour per month. That is quite promising for our demonstrator. Next, please. Here we have the electrical equipment from the main technical room in the basement of the target building, where we have all auxiliary equipment of the PV array installed on the rooftop of the building. Next, please. Here is a view from the technical room of the second building. We have pretty much the same type of equipment, but of other technologies and from different vendors. Next, please. A very important task for UPB team is represented by development and implementation of a SCADA system that will monitor and control the field devices. The software that will be open source, but also some hardware of the system are developed in-house by our team. This is a print screen of an early version of the interface showing the production and the main parameters of the 2 PV arrays, and also the consumption of the heat pump system. We are now working on integrating and refining the interface. The measurements made for the summer months, so from June to August, show an electricity production, a total electricity production of 26.7 megawatt-hour, and the consumption of the demo of only 1.7 megawatt-hour. So during the summer, we are consuming around only 6% of the energy produced by the PV system. This is because the cooling of the building is assured mainly in a passive way. Of course, for the heating season, these values will be reversed since the electricity produced will decrease and the consumption will increase due to the heat pump functioning. Anyway, we're expecting that yearly production of electricity will cover at least the consumption of our demo, as our calculations show. I want to highlight the fact that we're developing a SCADA system as a first layer for local use, control, monitoring, and recording data. But main elements of the system are being integrated within the platform developed by our project partners, Atos. Next, I will give the floor to my colleague Javier from Atos, who will present the concept of the digitalization platform, and he and his colleagues are now developing. Thank you.
Javier, please try to put the presentation in less than 4 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you, Constantine. My name is Javier Ruiz. I am researcher in Atos Energy, Climate and Decarbonization Unit, and I'm going to explain our contribution in this project. Our solution consists of a decentralized platform in the cloud that takes the data, store it, and process it. If we look the diagram from left to right, we can see the data source in the blue blocks. The information is received in our system through several channels. For example, API RESTful, a Kafka broker, or some adapters. And it is processed with an ETL system Apache NiFi to finally be stored and put this variable to our command and control suite app. Okay, on the right of the diagram. Next, please. They are the main feature of the command and control suite. It is a web interface applications with user and roles management. So, for example, a Bucharest user can see other pilots' data. It has on-the-fly data transformations and semantic interoperability. That's it. It can capture data from different and diverse sources without a common format and harmonizes it to work with it. He can work with real-time data as well as with historical records. And we can set alarms. For example, if a sensor exceeds a limit value, we can have an alarm that we will be able to send it by email or notification. And in the future, our plan is implement a control and optimization methods based on AI techniques like reinforcement learning will be available. Next, please. Here, we can see an example of a diagram with sensors that will update their values in real time and show alarms and notification when they occurs. And if we may click on some of these sensors, next slide, please. We graph with more detailed information of historical data for that sensor. Okay, next slide. This is a list of the partners in these projects. The next. Okay, that's all from my side. Constantine, do you want to add anything?
No, it's okay from my side. Anyway, I think we have overpassed the time. Thank you, and sorry for all the connection problems.
Okay, pues, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will share the questions at the end because I think there are also some questions from the chat. So now we have the HEATflex project. Christian?
Yes, hi to all. Thank you for your introduction. Yes.
Christian, you have a problem with your audio. Can you check your microphone?
Yeah. Here?
No, we can not hear you. The audio is breaking. Christian?
So maybe I can that. So Is it working now? Is it better?
Not so much.
Okay.
Okay, then we will go. Christian, maybe you can try to find to connect again. We will go with the Christian. We cannot hear you.
So maybe plan B.
Christian, we cannot hear you.
Let's see.
I will go with the mission project, and then we go back to your. We will try to connect again. Yeah. Francesco?
Yes, thank you, Valeria. Let me introduce myself. My name is Francesco Sergi. I'm a senior researcher at the Institute of Advanced Energy Technology in Nicola Giordano, which is located in Messina. And this afternoon I will talk about the project called Mission, Multi-Vector Integrated Smart Energy System and Intelligent Microgrids for Accelerating the Energy Transition. This project was founded by the Ministry of Ecological Transition, the Italian Ministry of Ecological Transition, in the framework of the international initiative called Mission Innovation. Next slide, please. Yes, the Mission Innovation Initiative is an international initiative that started from the Paris Agreement during the Conference of the Party 21. In this agreement, which was signed by 23 countries plus the European Union, the decision made was to accelerate the clean energy transition starting from 2015, to double the R&I investment in clean energy by 2021, and facilitating the greater private sector engagement in clean energy. So each country had to reinforce their investment in clean energy transition, and the Italian side of Mission Innovation was called Mission Innovation Italy, as I said before, founded by the Italian Ministry of Ecological Transition. In the first phase of this, let's say, research program, because Mission Innovation Italy is a sort of research program, the main focuses are on smart grids, on hydrogen, and on advanced materials. So the ministry founded 3 different projects. Each project is of 3 years, and the budget is mainly between 15 million per each project. The main partners of the project are the ENEA, which is the National Agency for New Technology, Energy and Sustainable Economic Development, the RSC, which is Ricerca di Sistema Elettrico, so is mainly focused on smart grids and research on the energy system, and the National Research Council of Italy. I belong to this organization. So I will talk today of the project Mission, which is in the framework of smart grid, and the main, let's say, goal of this project is to try to study, to assess, and to develop different smart grid demonstrators. 2 smart grid demonstrators, one at Enea Portici in the microgrid of Enea, one in RSC facilities in Milan and in Piacenza, to try to understand better which are the main interlinkage between the different energy networks and the different energy vectors, mainly thermal, electrical, gas, and about gas is included not only the methane but also the hydrogen. Another point is that these 2 demonstrators needs to be scaled up in the future. So The size of this demonstrator is in the range of hundreds kilowatt, but the idea is to try to scale up the technology and the concept up to megawatt scale. Both the demonstrator of Enea and of RC are mainly composed by smart subnets or nano or micro-sized nets, and they can operate independently or in an interconnected way. Next slide. Thank you. Here you can see the microgrid of Enea, where the CNR is particularly involved. This microgrid includes different subnets, the electrical nanogrid, the thermal nanogrid, the building experimental area, the Cresco data center, and also the distributed generation subsystem. All these subnets are, let's say, controlled and monitored by different controllers, local controllers or central control. The main activity of CNR is to develop the control logic of the entire microgrid. So this so-called the smart energy microgrid platform you can see in the middle of the picture, and also to develop the control logic and the architecture also of the other local controllers. You see that the electrical nanogrid and the thermal nanogrid are two subnets mainly devoted to the emulation of electrical generation and demand, and in the case of the thermal one, of the thermal generation and demand. While the distributed generation subsystem is composed by real system, PV panels, filling station, electrical filling station, electrical storage, thermal storage, micro CHP, and also an electrolyzer able to generate hydrogen and oxygen from electricity. Also, a small wind, micro wind is foreseen. So it's possible to, let's say, reproduce different scenarios considering both the emulation side from electrical and thermal nanogrids, and also considering the real system installed in the Enea premises. Next slide. Thank you. As I said before, the main focus of the main research activity of CNR is to develop the control architecture and the control logic. To do this is needed to design a flexible control architecture capable of experimenting both cooperative and competitive logics. Why I'm talking about this kind of logics, because in this microgrid we want to try to experiment different kinds of services, mainly demand response and aggregation of distributed resources, but also in general energy market services, trying also to reproduce the logic of the energy market, the logic of the forecast, and so on. Here you see the three levels of control: the network level, which is the smart energy microgrid platform. This controller needs to be interfaced with external entity like DSO, TSO, and can also, let's say, simulate in certain instances some energy market services. In the middle between the main controller and the local controller, we have a so-called infrastructure level, where we can see the coordination between the individual subnetwork. And here the main goals are the definition of metrics for energy enhancement and identification of priority objectives. Lastly, the lowest level is the level, let's say, close to the operational technology controller. So this is the control of the final generator, the final storage, the final equipment. And so this is a sort of final control that we have on the equipment in the microgrid. Another point is that we need to consider a sort of management of internal resources. So the demand side management can help the demand response. So we have the flexibility from different energy vectors. So hydrogen, thermal grid, electrical grid, different kinds of storage, both thermal, hydrogen, and electrical. And the main goal is to try to work all the microgrid in an optimized way, and try also to, let's say, to experiment different scenarios during this 3-year project. Next slide, please.
Francesco, these 2 minutes.
Yeah, I will be really fast. Here you see the first achievement, because we did a sort of assessment of different control logic architectures. The classical one, which is the hierarchical, where the main controller controls the different subcontrollers in a hierarchical way, but we can also foresee and, let's say, demonstrate and do experimentation on peer-to-peer approach, on competitive hybrid approach and cooperative hybrid approach, simulating the different subnets like single agents. And so we can try to understand how these kinds of agents can work in a competitive way or in a cooperative way in the energy market. Next slide, please. Here you see some first achievement on the modeling of the cooling system of the data center Cresco. This is a, let's say, quite complicated system, because foresee a geothermal well plus a water storage. So let's say a supply of water that can feed the four PDX, from PDX1 to PDX4, and to cool down the temperature of the computer rack in the data center. This can be work both in direct expansion or through the use of the cold water coming from the storage. So we try to do a preliminary, to develop a preliminary model in Python of this layout, using an optimizer also to understand how we can save energy and how we can reduce the use of the pump PDX1, PDX4 during the operation and during the cooling of the data center. These are preliminary results, but it's possible also to, let's say, control the different PDX in order to reduce the energy. Next steps of the project is to develop complete modeling of the entire microgrid, as I said before, simulating market operation in different logic architectures, to design the whole control and communication system, enabling the operation of the different energy vectors and subnets, and to implement demand response services through the aggregation of distributed resource in terms of the same microgrid, but also in same of the aggregation of the two microgrids in Milan and in Portici, working as a unique, let's say, a unique demand to try to reproduce demand response service also using different location in Italy. I think is the last slide. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now we go back to Christian. Christian, can you?
Okay, can you hear me good?
Now it's okay, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So also thanks, Valeria, for your introduction. So I would like to talk about the HEATflex project. And as you can see, it's already finished in April. So it was an ERANET project led by the Danish company Plan Energy. And it was an Austrian Danish project with the project partners you can see here. Next slide, please. So I would like to talk about some relevant output, and I would like to focus here on three main parts. So the first part was the HEATflex production tool. And as you can imagine from the name, it's based on Excel. And it should be a tool for relevant stakeholders, especially for district heating operators who are not that familiar with, I would say, simulation or in detailed calculation. And that's why this tool is quite helpful for the production side of the district heating grid. And also if you want to integrate some waste heat, sector coupling, or renewable energies in general to your grids. The next tool is the grid tool. So it's all about optimizing and calculating on the grid side. And the third one is the toolbox. I will talk about more in a minute. Next slide, please. So here you can see the HEATflex production tool. On the left-hand side, you can see the input area. I think you might click. Yeah. You can see the input area. There you put in the basic data of the grid, like the energy amounts, also the costs, the prices, and so on. And with that, you can calculate your reference scenario, so your current situation. And it's also shown there on the right side. Yeah, after that, you can calculate your case scenario. So what you want to implement or what you want to change. For example, if you want to implement some solar thermal integration or a biomass boiler or power to heat applications or heat pumps, for example, it can be done on the left side again. It's also quite interesting because there are also some investment costs are also estimated. If you put in the amount of load, the costs are also estimated and calculated yeah, as it's needed. So in that case, you can calculate the differences and show what are the effects on the changes you would like to implement in your grid in the future. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is about the grid tool. So it's also Excel-based. As I also said, it's not a detailed grid simulation. It's only a basic calculation on your grid. And it's also especially for the grid operators. Because you can make there some see the economic effects, and it should also be a decision support tool for the operators. Next slide, please. And here you can calculate 4 different kind of scenarios. The first scenario is if you want to lower the grid temperatures, for example, you can calculate it here, and also it affects the economic effects on it. Then we have then we have the refurbish of the grid. So if you want to change some pipes, what are the effects on it? Then we have, if you want to so the densification of the grid expansion. Yeah, so if you want to have some more consumers on the pipe, or also what's quite interesting is the decentralized producers and prosumers. So if you want to implement some there. Next slide, please. Another thing is the roadmap. So different kind of roadmaps were created. For example, for the waste heat integration, reducing the grid temperatures, or in general to get the grid more flexible. Next slide, please. So if you go to our website, you will find the toolbox, and there you will find all of the presented parts. So the roadmaps, the technical aspects. In the technical aspects, you will also find some, I would say, possibilities for hydraulic integration, for example, if you want to implement some prosumers, so bidirectional heating stations, for example, it's included in there, or for some innovative components. Another thing are the legal aspects, also some calculation tools. So not only our tools, but also quite interesting, we have a list on tools in general used in the EU. And you can also find some business cases to get some grids more flexible. Okay, next slide, and we are finished. So thanks.
Thank you,
And if you have
Christian.
questions.
Okay, so there are some questions I saw from the chat. So I saw one question from Hans about the HYPERGRYD project and about disruption storage. So which is the actual operating mode of disruption storage and which is the overall size compared to the heat demand? I will answer this question actually because we are responsible together with a German company for the development of the disruption storage in HYPERGRYD. So the idea of disruption storage within the HYPERGRYD project is not to be really a seasonal storage, but rather to be a weekly to monthly based storage. The idea is that depending on whether you have high temperature grid or low temperature grid, the operation is different. If you have a high temperature grid, basically you can use the heat from your grid in summer also to produce cooling, which means that in a time where usually you don't have any need for heat, at least in residential districts, you can have an extra way for the system to be operated, or you can charge the storage when you have excess heat or where the heat from the grid is at lower price, thus reducing the overall cost for heating and cooling, because you can, since it's a weekly to monthly basis storage, even in winter you can store the heat when it's cheaper and then use it for residential or industrial applications if the temperature levels are okay. If we consider it in combination with newer grids, so with lower temperatures, the idea is that we can use the storage in combination with a heat pump. So the storage can be charged again when the heat is cheaper or when there is excess heat and you need to provide a sort of balance to the grid, for example, because there is an excess of renewable production. If you have a lot of solar thermal or biomass boilers or CHP that you cannot operate a different part load and then release the heat as either for space heating or space cooling. This is one step. And regarding the size, this is modular. Actually, within HYPERGRYD, we will do just a very small module that we will install in CAD, so that, as Francesco said, is just kind of lab-controlled, very small microgrid. The next step in a project that hopefully will start in December and that will be coordinated again by ARC will be to have a disruption storage that is directly charged also with electricity. So we can have, for example, to provide flexibility to the electrical grid, since actually 40% of the demand of the electrical grid, especially right now, if we consider that gas boilers will be probably somehow phased out in Europe, we can directly provide some or flexibility services to the grid directly by charging this option storage. Hans, does this answer your question? Hans?
Yes, thank you very much for the explanation. So I understand the intention is rather for the short term, weekly at the maximum storage. Yeah.
Then I have another question from Hans to Francesco. How far going is this development in comparison to the current state of art used in the field? Is it a revolution or just an adoption? When do you estimate that it could be implemented and rolled out and become dominant?
Okay, thank you, Hans, for your question. If you look to the components, to the technology of the microgrid under development, for sure the technologies are state of art in terms of development. Okay, so we are going to use state of art technology. What is really, from my point of view, disruptive is the flexibility to use this kind of technology in a, let's say, in a flexible way. So you can reproduce different scenario in terms of energy market and energy services, considering also the, let's say, the microgrid that you have in a unique site, but you can consider that also as located in different sites. So you can have some flexibility in this, flexibility in the control architecture, because you can reproduce, for instance, peer-to-peer approach for the energy market. You can simulate the aggregation of distributed resource in demand response mode, but you can also do practically everything, because the control architecture is completely open, and we can use also, let's say, artificial intelligence for load forecast, for production forecast, for energy price forecast, for instance. And this information can be, let's say, distributed to all the subnet or not. This can be also available only to one subnet, considering, for instance, that if the subnets will work in a competitive way, some information cannot be allowed to one of them. So the main innovation is the flexibility in the architectural logic, and the possibility to demonstrate and try practically everything. The other point is that when we can see something like that in the reality, I think that we will need some years, because this is a really low TRL development. I repeat, not in terms of development of technology, but in terms of development of the control part. And if you have to adopt, let's say, a peer-to-peer approach using the current regulation, for instance, in the electricity market, it's practically impossible, no? But if we can demonstrate, we can study on this, and we can, let's say, also reproduce something like happen in the web, no? For instance, some possible approach could achieve also the real world in the medium. I don't think in the short, but in the medium term.
Thank you, Francesco. So you said that the different elements of the technology are available, and then the intelligent part is what you are developing. But are the available technologies, are they also already in the field, so that you could just apply your intelligence to an already existing installation, so to speak. That is, or do you also need to make installations of the hardware correspondingly?
During the project, there are only 2 subnets that is going to be installed. The other part is already present in the microgrid. The research is mainly on the development of the controllers, both hardware, software, and also the interrelation between all the control. This is completely new.
So the controllers need to be built into the existing grid. Oh, okay.
This is completely new, and so we are working on the design of this control architecture and also on the logic inside to reproduce different market scenario.
Yeah. And also maybe just a comment that you would like to reflect on spontaneously. I noticed you mentioned also optimizing together with the gas grid, the hydrogen, let's say future hydrogen grid. I think this is something one hears quite seldom when it comes to smart grids. Discussion is mostly about the electricity grid, maybe heat, but you mentioned also the gas grid. So yeah, I like that idea of including all energy vectors, and maybe you would like to reflect on the motivation and how do you see the added benefits or relevance of also having the gas grid included in that optimization.
Yes, hydrogen for sure, as we know, can add a relevant benefit for the electrical system because it gives flexibility, high flexibility to the electrical system. And then also, if we look to the current situation of the Ukraine crisis, hydrogen could be an alternative, let's say, gas producing by renewables, so totally free, and with no possibility to have, let's say, a control from no EU, let's say, countries. Even if for sure this kind of gas could be produced also in North Africa, where the electricity from renewables is particularly available, no? But gas, we have thought in the last decade that especially the methane, the natural gas, was let's say, the technology of the energy transition during the energy transition. We have always thought that gas was the technology of the energy transition because moving from a complete controlled system to a complete uncontrolled system based on renewables is not easy to do in a fast way. So gas has been this kind of vector also in the, let's say, in the policy of the European Union. But now we need to, from my point of view, to try other kinds of way to produce alternative fuels. For instance, gas with methanation could be another option, as you said before, because we can, let's say...
Sorry, but we have to close, unfortunately. So just very short comment.
Okay, no, because with Hans we usually talk together for long periods. Anyway, just to close the reply, we have other alternative from gas as a fossil fuel. No, we can use hydrogen combining it with CO2 by methanation. We can use directly hydrogen, and then we can also use the gas that we can have its availability, but it's not at this moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, but we have to close. We are already late. Thank you all. And of course, if you have any other question to any other speaker, just all the videos and the presentations, all the YouTube videos, I guess, will be made available. Yeah, okay, the recording and YouTube videos will be available, so you will also have the contacts there for further information. Thank you. Bye.
Many thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.